Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I bring to you something super exciting. So don't you worry if you're a baker and sometimes you lose that inspiration on what to do with cake, especially when it has to do with traditional wedding cake. Here is an inspiration, an easy way to decorate a simple traditional wedding cake. So sit and relax and let's get right into the video. Please subscribe. Hi, I'm Luchi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Here we'll bake, decorate, share ideas, vlog on lifestyle. Please do subscribe. Thank you. So what we basically need for this cake covering is one, your corn flour, two, your smoothener. I always prefer this that comes in two pair, and then I use the other one, and then your rolling pin. So whatever we are going to use subsequently, you will see them. Then we'll be needing our tape because you need to take measurements of the cake to know how well you're going to spread your fondant. And of course we need our fondant. So just see how we are going to transform this 8 inches 3 layers cake into something amazing. So first I used my tape to measure the size, and then the height, and then the width, because you need to know how well you're going to roll out your fondant so you don't roll it out too small or too big. So the first thing I do is I flour my surface using my corn flour. I always like using the corn flour because corn flour is white and the fondant is white, so it helps reduce the stickiness of whatever fondant you're using to your table. Then if you notice, I kept folding my fondant because I needed to make it pliable. I made the fondant very early in the morning, so it took me 1 hour, so by then it might have been so relaxed, so I made it pliable before starting to roll out. So if you're seeing the way I'm rolling out, you see that I'm rolling from the middle to the outside in a circular way, and I kept turning and turning. So you need to make sure it's not sticking to your table, and then you're doing it in a circular motion. So when you measure, and of course the cake we are covering is a round cake, not a square cake, so that is why I am actually rolling it out in this way. So then I kept measuring with my measuring tape to make sure I am not beyond the measurement I took first. So when I was certain that I've gotten the measurement, I had to use my smoothener to smoothen out the cake, and then I used my cake cutter to cut out the rough edges of the fondant. Then picking it up with my rolling pin, I used it to cover the cake. So I just covered the cake with my buttercream, which is why I didn't have to apply water or edible spirit. So the buttercream was still moist, so I prefer doing it this way because water messes up fondant. So I prefer using my buttercream and then covering immediately. That helps out to reduce using external body like water or liquid. So after covering, I smoothened up with my smoothener, and then using my palm I made sure I draped it round the cake gently. You don't have to press so hard because fondant is really sensitive, so you don't make dents on it. So using my palm, the edge of my palm, I made sure I rolled it out so the fondant will fit perfectly well. Yes, if you've watched to this point and you're not subscribed to my channel, please kindly hit the subscribe button and watch out for more. So after smoothing with my palm, I used my cutter to cut out the excess, removing the excess, and then I switched to my smoothener. Using my smoothener, I smoothen out the edges, making sure it is well sticked to the cake, removing every bubble using my pin. Though I didn't have much bubble in this, but in a case whereby you cover and it doesn't stick very well, all you have to do is use a needle and deflate every bubble. So then I switched to using two smootheners. These smootheners help me get my edges, my sharp edges. They have two ways of making these edges, so if you want me to show you the other way, do well to tell me at the description box below, so I can also make a video about the other way of getting a smooth edge. But I prefer this one because I don't have to flip, and to me it is easier. So using both smootheners, I made my edges. So guys, As I said before, if you've watched to this point, please do subscribe to my channel, and for more notification, put on your notification bell. Thank you. Afterward, I had to smoothen out. If you observe, my sharp edges are well out, so using my smoother, I made sure everything was well incorporated. The smooth edge were smooth edging. I don't know if you understand that English, but it's just like a slang we use. So I made sure the smooth and the sharp edges came out well, and then I had to make sure every bubble was out. So I forgot to say that whenever you're using the smoother on the cake surface, do well to flour to reduce stickiness and dents. So next, I colored my white fondant yellow. This is because I'll be painting it gold, so yellow makes it easy to be painted rather than white. White, you'll be seeing the shadow, but yellow, it comes out perfect. So using my yellow fondant, I got my crown silicone mold to make molds to use in beautifying my cake. Of course, traditional wedding cakes to me, it means royalty, so I had to make royal bodies, royal embodiment using my silicone mold. So I made the big crown, and I made with a small crown as well. So alternating each, I used it to make my cake look so, beautiful. So with the help of my edible spirit, I used it to stick to my already covered fondant cake. So I alternated, like I said, between the large crown and the small crown to produce something, creative. It's not that I planned this, actually, I was just inspired and everything started coming together. So like I said, I would always warn, whatever you're doing with your fondant cake, I wouldn't advise you do it with water. But fondant is really so sensitive, so you rather use your edible spirit than water, because water can mess up your whole recipe. Then next, I went into covering my cake board. I do not know why some people leave their cake board bare. It's just like dressing and not putting on your shoes. So I always make sure I cover my cake board. So I measured my cake board, making sure I got the real measurement, and then using my cutter, I made the inner part smooth so it will just lap with the already covered cake. And then I moistened my board using my edible spirit, of course, because it dries out so easily and it doesn't alter the consistency on your fondant. So then I covered it, making sure it laps on my board. I smoothened it out using my very sharp knife. I removed the excess from it. If you have any confusion or question about the whole process so far, you can just leave a comment or a question at the comment box below, and I promise I will attend to it and I will make it as clear as possible. Next, I switched to my embosser. This is an embosser I used to emboss designs on fondant. So I particularly love this embosser for my cake boards. I don't know why, but if you notice most of my fondant cake, you would know that this embosser is like my go-to embosser. If you notice, I removed the cake from the turntable because I just needed the cake to stay stable. The turntable would make it go round and round, so put it in a stable surface. After embossing, you can then switch to your turntable. Now after doing this, I had to go back to my molds. The reason why I didn't put the last one is because I needed to lap the cake board fondant with that of my cake to avoid shabbiness, just for it not to look shabby. Then after doing this, I created a new entire look altogether. Then I had to write the theme of the traditional wedding, of course. There's a combination of the meal and the bride and the groom, yes. And then there's year 2023, easy peasy, right? So the next thing I did was using my edible spirit to dust off excess corn flour. The corn flour gives it this very dull look, so using your edible spirit to dust it out makes it have a sharp look. So I always prefer dusting it out of every corn flour before painting, because once you paint, the edible spirit can as well mess with the luster dust and whatever you're using to paint. So I always prefer to dust it up. So this is the point where some people steam. I don't really trust my steamer at this point, so that was why I didn't use my steamer. So after dusting off the excess corn flour, I mixed my luster dust and my edible spirit. So it's time to paint into gold. So like I explained, when you use white, when you paint white, it won't give you this very sharp gold, which was why I had to color the fondant yellow. So I hope you learned this. If you've not learned anything from this video, that if you need to paint, at least make the color darker. And the darker color I always prefer is yellow, sun yellow. It gives you the perfect hue to paint on. So painting on white can give you this shadowish look behind the scene. I don't know how to explain, but I hope you get it. Okay, so use a well-fitted brush. Like if you notice, I'm alternating between a tiny brush and a fat brush. So just know when you use a tiny brush so you don't make a mess. Guys, if you're going to do this, be very careful. And this you see me do here is because I've practiced a lot. I've really worked on fondant cake, so that is why it's looking so neat. But for first timers, you might really create a mess. So it is always preferable you mix into a consistency that wouldn't be dripping on the white area. And just be careful and have fun. So at this point, what I was trying to do is to fill up the spaces I left where you can still see yellow. I used my smaller brush to fill it up with my luster dust and edible spirit, making sure the whole painting is neatly done. So here is the finished look after painting, but no, we are not done yet. Keep calm. So next, what I did was I also dust the surface again. Remember I told you that it can mess it up, but I just looked at the cake. It didn't give me that sharp look I was looking for. I was still seeing some corn flour attached to my fondant cake. So I also use this opportunity to make the surface wet so I can attach my bead. Yes, here is my sugar bead. So guys, if you want a bonus, like for me to make a video on how I made this sugar beads, you can say so in the comment box. I'll do a video showing you how this bead was done. It's all sugar, it's not magic. So because I dusted it off, the surface was wet, so it could easily stick to the fondant cake. So here is me trying to dust off the excess corn flour I used while making my sugar beads. So I hope it came out well and it's looking all real. So as you can see, the color of the cake is coming together. So watching from the beginning, you wouldn't know that this will come out as sharp as this. So gradually we are coming to the end of this video, and next I couldn't just leave my cake board hanging. Of course, I always have a habit of covering every loops. Like, it has to be perfect. Like, I'm a perfectionist if you think about it, because it is what it is. Okay, so I used my candle gum. Yeah, that is called a candle gum. And then I used my bias. This is called bias. So I always use it to cover the edge of the cake box to make it look nice and beautiful. So what I do basically is use a candle to melt my candle wax or my candle gum, and then I stick it to the bias to make it stick to the board. So it is what it is actually. So here is me finishing with it, and it's adding this gold hue. So sometimes when I'm using silver luster dots, I also use silver bias to make it go together. So this is me finishing up with covering the border of my cake board. So voila, this is what the end result was like. So afterward, I had to put my traditional wedding cake topper with the inscription Mr. and Mrs. Wow, this is the finished look, guys. See how beautiful it came out. See how, oh my god, this is royalty. Actually, I can't think of another word to quantify this cake with. So this is royalty, and I'm really glad you watched this video to this point. So if you watch to this point, do well to like, do well to comment and subscribe. So I had to go out to make a better video actually, and then I took pictures of the cake. So do well to try out this inspiration. Normally I don't have ideas of what I want to do for my cake. It just comes as an inspiration. So I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel and put on your notification bell for more videos. Till we meet next time, same channel. Bye.